If you don't want to agree that it is misconduct, then maybe the Ombuds's second leg of being incompetent is perhaps true. What do you say to that?
I don't agree with that also.
Okay.
I've run the department very well.
You didn't know about the deaths in of the mental health care users. Isn't that so?
I also have a little problem about the line of inquiry about misconduct. I think we should deal with the elements of the disputes about recklessness and negligence, perhaps incompetence, but misconduct is something that will be determined within a disciplinary hearing of sorts.
I'm just referring to the Ombuds report at this stage, but I hear what Justice is saying.
Yeah, it will be determined in another tribunal, another forum. But for now, I'm interested in this line of questions, but on recklessness and on negligence and on unlawfulness.
Yes. Good.
I think that's a standard that we will use
Good, please.
for the
Yes.
dispute, yes.
People starved, and you didn't know about that.
I wouldn't have known, honestly. I think I've said that before. I wouldn't have known.
And you issued licenses without applying your mind.
I've signed it and I've considered that even yesterday.
Was the system not just too big for you to handle?
The system is big, but to handle, it's another thing. I mean, there were other programs that happened and that were running well. I mean, we were providing I hear you, Judge, except differing with somebody may not necessarily, or not differing with somebody, may not necessarily show.
Let me just try and help you where
Okay.
counsel is going.
Okay.
You see, have you ever taken time to read the act that regulates your powers?
Yes, sir.
You have.
Yeah,
Which act have you studied?
I mean, like, I'm unable to quote that regulation, this and this and that. I'm unable to. The act that I would know, this is National Health Act, but to say the nitty-gritties of the act, it's slightly beyond.
You as an HOD, what law regulates your conduct and your duties? Which law sets out your powers?
It's in the PFMA. It's in the
Pardon?
PFMA. Public Finance Management Act. Yes, that's the PFMA.
Yes. And you see, the point is, the inquiry is whether you acted in a way that the law requires. You have mentioned just one. You are bound by the Public Service Act, Public Administration Act.
That's right.
You are bound by the Mental Health Care Act. You are bound by at least those, I think there are 6, 7 others. But the ones relevant for this purpose, those are the laws. So what counsel is asking is, do you think you acted as a reasonable administrator would act? And you ask what reasonable means, and I said is one who acts diligently, efficiently, honestly, and consistently with legal prescripts. Do you think in Life Esidimeni Marathon Project, you were that kind of administrator?
At the time when it was being conceived, I was that at that time. And if you say now, when we look at everything, it went wrong,
But that's not a
I was.
subjective thing. Let's try again, Doc. It's not what sits in your mind or between your ears. It is when we objectively look at what you did, is that what a competent lawful administrator should have done.
At that time, yes. Yes,
It's an
Judge.
objective test.
Objectively speaking, at that time, you're faced with these decisions, you make the decision at that time. At that time. But I did indicate, Judge, that hindsight is something different. Knowing that if you move from A to B, what will happen? I wouldn't have known. I'm not walking away from it, but I wouldn't
Well,
have
sometimes
known.
I get a sense that you don't quite understand the obligations that you bear. You have to make sure that patients get quality health care.
That's right.
Not one, many of the laws in our country require that from you.
That's good, and they do. Even now, they do. Patients get that.
And you allow, for instance, an example, licenses to be signed in unlawful circumstances. And that in turn entitles the holders of the licenses, one, to be paid by the state, public funds, two, to keep patients which otherwise would have been looked after by the state, three, they'll provide medication, which we know here they did a hazardous job, and a collection of all those things leads to deaths. Would you ever stand with a straight face and say, that is what a responsible HOD would have done in similar circumstances? Do you understand the inquiry? I sometimes struggle and think.
But yes, Judge, would you also, I'm just thinking that patients in hospitals and all our institutions were being taken care of. Were being taken care of, Judge. And I concede, and it may not be something palatable to say, but the whole host of patients inside Gauteng Department of Health were being taken care of. They were receiving food. They were getting medication. They were being clothed. Operations were going on. I agree that the project went wrong, Judge.
How many people were at Life Esidimeni when you shut it down?
Approximately 2,000.
And those who were affected by the move was around 1,500.
1,300 and something.
1,380. Now, let's talk about those patients. You remember your debate with Advocate Hassim about individualizing the right of access to health care. Now, you've got those people. Do you think you acted like a reasonable HOD? You protected their interests. You may have protected 95% of other interests. Let's tick that box, well done. But these 1,350 people, did you afford them the right that the law requires you to afford them? That is inquiry. It's an examination of your overall competence. My job is to look at whether you afforded them the kind of care that the law imposes on you.
I hear you, Judge. If at that time you were to meet with me while I was sitting in an office and ask me, are you working correctly? I would have said, yes, I'm working correctly, Judge.
But you don't
I
understand
would have
again,
said
Doctor.
that.
That's your subjective view. That's what sits in between your ears. Subjectively, I'm doing the right thing. But if you go and look, objectively is when somebody independent looks and says, oh, how could they send people to Precious Angel? Would you?
But, Judge, the person objectively has hindsight now. That hindsight.
What hindsight?
We now know what happened.
No, you could have got off your desk and went to Precious Angel to go and look. You would have known what place it is. You would have known they've not got proper ablution block. They don't have money for month after month or for 4 months. You would have known there are no caregivers there. there were no psychiatric nurses, there were no occupational therapists. You would have known that had you, as a good administrator, got out of your office or got some of your troops to go and look.
The troops did that. The troops did that. And they said, it's fine. Why would I then not trust the troops?
Do you know that they did that?
The troops say, we have done that. Why would
Do
I
you
say,
know
I
that they
don't
did
know? I don't know. I don't want to.
But do you know that they did that?
The troops said they've done that.
You startled me from time to time. At some point, I think we're almost at the same wavelength, and suddenly
We are, Judge.
you take 10 miles back.
We are, Judge. I'm also trying to go through the emotions that said, you are sitting with colleagues, with managers, and I spoke about issues of trust, and that's how work situations operate. You trust your colleagues. You respect your colleagues as a leader. They respect you in turn. If they give you a report and said, we have done this.
When you say I take responsibility and I want to be an accountable leader, what do you mean?
When I said I take accountability, I said, it happened under my watch. Whether I went to check or didn't check, whether I'm not operational, which by nature no HOD is operational anywhere in the country. No HOD is operational. Whether I was not, but when it happened, it was under my watch. I cannot suddenly, as an example, when we got an unqualified audit judge, it is the managers who worked very hard for that. But the accolades were received by me on their behalf. It was a good thing. Why would it then happen when things go all right? I suddenly say, no, it's you.
No,
That is what I mean.
that.
That's what I mean.
Did you check, when something has gone wrong, did you use your best endeavors to prevent it? Did you?
When, after post-facto now, after everything had
No
happened.
post-facto about it.
Yeah.
In life as a Esidimeni, when you go and look at what you did you employ your best endeavors to stop this carnage and this tragedy?
I did, Judge. You recall I told you that I ran around the province. I closed some of the NGOs. If I could have run faster, I would have done it. If I didn't do much more than I would have done, I beg for forgiveness. But I tried everything in my
There's a word
power.
for this. I think it's recidivism or something like that. I think we continue, Councillor.
Thank you. Dr. Silibana, I'm very nearly finished. I just want to say to you, a reasonable decision maker, especially one with a medical background, would have realized that this program is not going to work. What do you say to that?
At that time, no, I don't agree with you.
Okay, we're talking, the justice tried to explain to you subjective and objective.
Yeah, but you know, I come out wrong, and it really bothers me because I'm trying to
I also want to...
Okay.
Sorry, Doctor.
No, go on, Council. Sorry about that.
You, a reasonable decision maker, especially one with medical background, would have realized that the NGOs and the hospitals were not ready to receive these patients. What do you say to that?
Councillor, you know, I struggle to bring you to understand at that time where was the department, where was the management team and everything.
But now looking back, you agree with that?
Looking back,
Yeah,
looking
okay.
back.
Let's give another example. I'm sorry, Councillor, to interrupt you. A reasonable HOD would have had a tracking system of a project plan, isn't it so?
Now I know that, yes. I know that. It would have helped to have a proper tracking system. It would have helped.
And with a tracking system, you would have known and heard about every single death, at least within 24, 48
In
hours
time.
of it.
In time.
Isn't it so?
It's so. It's so.
And as the bodies were piling up, if there was a track system, this diligent HOD would have said, stop the world, I want to get off, isn't it?
Correct, with a proper tracking system.
Did you
Correct.
have one?
We didn't have a tracking system.
Do you think you are that competent and diligent HOD on life Esidimeni? That's the point we're trying to make. One moment we seem to be agreeing, and the next moment
No,
you retreat into your old ways.
no, Judge, no. The issue is that you take the past and then bring it into the future, and I must make a decision of the past as if it's in the present. If part of it now, if we had a tracking system, then we would have been able to do this. And
No,
this and this.
why did you have one? I mean,
We don't have even now, I'm sure.
why did you have it? Well, how big is your budget?
That time it was, I think, 36.8
Billion.
billion.
36.8
Billion.
thousand million rand.
No, 36.8 billion
Yes.
rands.
A
Yes.
billion is 1,000 million.
Okay, yes, okay. Yes.
Are we agreed, Doctor?
Yes, 36 billion. Almost 58 to 60% of it taken by compensation of employees.
I've seen that.
Yes.
You pay employees well. They take 60% of the budget.
Almost. And we are left.
And just before you shut down Esidimeni, did you retrench any people?
In government, no.
Did you reduce emoluments of government employees?
Meanings?
Yes, yes.
No. Actually,
Did you cut down benefits?
no. Actually, Labour would never allow
Labour
that.
would
Actually,
Okay, let's
it's
go
not
to
even
management,
for us.
executive management. Did you reduce the car allowances?
No, we
No,
don't even get
no.
car allowances. We don't get car allowances.
And the question screams, why target life Esidimeni? Helpless people who can't earn their own money, who have no medical aids of their own, who on the evidence were needy South Africans,
I hear you, Judge. I hear you.
and
very
most
well.
of their families were working class people.
Some not even employed, probably.
Yeah,
I hear
sure.
you.
But
I hear you.
36 billion, why do you target these most vulnerable part of your mental health care delivery?
But, Judge, would you agree also that on that 36 billion?
No, I don't have to agree with anything. Just tell me why they were a legitimate target
No,
of your...
Judge, they were not a target, Judge. They were not a target, Judge. Please, Justice, they were not a target. They were not. The patients can never be a target. Never. It can't be. It can't. You can't target most vulnerable mothers and children, elderly, mental patients, those
Did
who are
your
in our
system,
hospitals.
your tracking system tell you where were these patients taken to? Where, physically, geographically?
The written tracking, yes, it was saying this patient has gone to this NGO. But we know that things were actually not that way. It was generally things went wrong. That we know. Against that, Judge. I'm not arguing against
And on
that.
all this evidence, you know, patients whose families were in Soweto were taken to Temba in Hammanskraal. Some were taken from here to Vereeniging. You saw that, you know that.
I know that.
And you say all of these are the deeds of a good HOD.
I'm not saying that, Judge.
Counsel?
Thank you, Justice. I also want to put it to you that a reasonable decision maker, especially one with medical background as yourself, would have realized that server level agreements had to be in place and payments had to be made to NGOs. You agree with that?
I'm not too sure if I understand your
Okay.
question.
If you had a tracking system, you would have realized that the server level agreements was not signed.
Service level agreements were not signed.
Yes.
I know that, yes.
Yes. Now, if you had a tracking system, you would have
If
realized
we
that.
had a tracking system, yes.
And if you had realized that, you would have also known that people, NGOs, are not being paid. Is that not so?
Yes.
And
it's
if you
fair.
realize that NGOs are not being paid, you would have realized that people are going to die because there's not enough money.
Except that I only knew.
Yes,
you
but
have-
if
you
you
have-
had a tracking system, you would have known.
I would have known long in time, yes.
Yes,
I would
and
have
a
known
reasonable decision maker would have had that in place.
a tracking system.
Yes.
Yeah, we didn't have a tracking system.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Now,
And the rest of the billions, how do you track whether they are used properly? How do you monitor outcomes?
No, there are
No,
mechanisms.
it is quite a serious thing.
It is. There are mechanisms inside government. For instance, salaries, bill, compensation of how it works. It's not like the 36 billion is inside the Department of Health. No, it's not. It's with Treasury. So the tracking mechanisms for payments of salaries, of suppliers and all that, we do the paperwork. It's a finance department. They do the paperwork. Then they do what, let's say if we were to pay, a payment framework. Then they give it to Treasury. Then they do the payment.
In the financial years 2014 to 2015 and 2015 to 2016, were there any reported incidences of financial corruption in your department?
Corruption. No,
Yes, or unaccounted expenditure, fruitless expenditure.
okay, and wasteful expenditure, yes.
I beg your pardon?
And are you saying fruitless and wasteful? I was saying
Yes,
and
fruitless
wasteful.
and wasteful expenditure.
When I came into the department, I'm proud to say that wasteful expenditure, 15, 16 went to zero. The irregular expenditure.
What is 16, 15?
That's the
Oh, you mean
financial
the
year.
financial year,
Financial
yes,
year,
yes.
yes.
Before you got in, what was the number?
I know that it was there, but it was not high. It was not high. But I just wanted to just explain that it makes me proud that
Yes.
I got it at zero. Wasteful and
For which year? 15, 16?
15, 16. Irregular expenditure went appreciably down. Even AG accepted. That's why he gave us, they were willing even to give an unqualified report after more than 8 years
Of qualified audit.
of qualified audits.
And
The irregular that was high was the one that we inherited, which we're clearing up with Parliament.
In your evidence, you said the department was indebted virtually to everybody. What do you mean? What do you
No, I
mean
said
by that?
we had accruals. Accruals, it means we have spent more than we are able to pay. That's what it means. And
Spend to whom?
spend to patients. Let me explain. What happens, there's a discussion at DPSA, just as an example, but it's a real example. There's a discussion, labor sits, public sector sits with DPSA, they agree on a salary structure. That increase, we are going to effect it. We don't even ask, sorry, we don't have the money. All we know is that in the following cycle, we got to effect the increment. And that is how sometimes, and not always, you find that even our salary bill becomes stretched. But there's one thing that we never ever do, not to pay employees. Every time, employees are paid that money. There are instances where, there was an instance, I think December 14.
And patients, are they every time covered?
We make sure all our patients across the board in our hospitals must have a meal. They must have a meal. There's no way that a patient may not have a meal in our institutions. We make sure that under very difficult conditions that doctors have the base, sometimes they battle themselves. The doctors out there, the nurses out there, they battle with the little that they have. They battle continuously. Why? Because our pie is still staying the same. The increment is just more often than not on inflation, but the rest, we stuck. But you look at, like I was trying to say yesterday, the health inflation is almost now at 10%. So we battle with very, very limited
So for 8
resources.
years preceding you, your accounts were qualified,
They were qualified.
and there were high numbers of
Debtors.
debtors.
Yeah.
And you say in the 1 year that you were there, you corrected
No,
that.
the first 14, 15, we battled. We almost got it. We still had issues of irregular and accounting, and we then worked very hard for 15, 16.
You see, in all of that, I was trying to understand for myself still the desperation around life Esidimeni. Signing of a contract when nothing we know now was ready at NGOs. What was that desperation? You've got the accounts under control. You have reduced wasteful expenditure. Everything seems to be okay. And
No.
then you bomb out this agreement
Ish.
that involves mental health care users.
Yeah, it's
You
a good
could,
description.
you, the person who should be telling us, what was that pressure? Why did it have to happen?
You correctly said, Justice, then we bumped up this. You know, I mean, we were working so hard to get our systems going well. Like you correctly say, you reduce your wasteful expenditure, meaning no money goes where it's not supposed to go. And
And you still send these poor patients packing.
we lose.
But what, you know, it still remains a mystery, and you are the one very senior. You should be letting us into the driver, this obstinate drive to do it. Do you know now?
Obstinate.
Stubborn.
Yes,
Drive, yeah.
I'm thinking of the stubborn drive. Justice. In our quest at that time to say, how do we, this little pie, this little cake, how do we distribute it across the system? I agree with you, we made mistakes. We made mistakes. At that time, we thought, you know, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's regrettable, and I've said it 100 times, and I'll say it for as long as I can always say it.
My last
that
question, I'm going to turn you over to counsel.
yeah.
Did you and your department care for these patients? Did you really care?
We cared, Justice, we cared. We cared, Justice. It's the core business of what we do, compassion. We cared. It went wrong, Justice, it went wrong, but we cared. Please believe me. Please, if anything, believe me, we cared.
Counsel.
Thank you, Justice Musuneke. Dr. Silibano, I'm going to argue that the Umbud was correct, that you didn't act like a reasonable decision maker should have acted.
I'll say it's your opinion, Counsel.
Okay. You're not in agreement with that.
I'm not in agreement with that.
But you say you're responsible. Or you're saying, I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you saying you'll take responsibility?
I take accountability for,
You take accountability.
for being when this thing happened, it happened under my watch.
Okay. You take accountability, and what does that mean? You realize that you should vacate your position? Or how do you take accountability? How does one take accountability?
I thought I would want to ventilate that in a disciplinary hearing that I'm facing. That's why I would want to ventilate.
So it's still a hearing that's coming up.
Act-
Is that
actually-
what you're saying?
Actually, they're discussing when it's sitting.
I'm
with
just
them
trying to
together.
understand, Doctor, I'm definitely not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to understand what you say if you take accountability. Is there any sanction to that accountability that you're taking?
That's why I'm saying maybe I'm facing a disciplinary hearing. Let's ventilate, I'll ventilate it. It will be
So
ventilated there.
you think you don't have to fall on your sword. You leave it for somebody else to say whether you did wrong or not. Is that what you're saying?
You're putting it in my mouth. I'm just saying, please let the disciplinary, it's a separate process. It's only fair, you know that, Council.
Okay.
It's only fair that the disciplinary hearing makes a finding on
But
this.
you're not accepting responsibility, am I correct? You're accepting accountability but not
There are
responsibility.
charges on me, Council. Let me rather...
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, Doctor. Are you saying there's a difference between accountability and responsibility? Is that what you're saying? Because I'm just trying to establish what you're saying in the box now.
I'm picking up the word accountability from being accounting officer. I'm picking it up from there. That's what I'm saying.
No, I think council is asking, with all of this tragedy and its consequences and what we know now,
Yes.
how should you be held accountable?
I agree. That's why there's a disciplinary process, Judge, and I'm saying it is where it will be ventilated and charges have been put against me, and it's only fair that it will be there where sanction can be decided.
And the advocate went further to say, are you going to fall on your sword? Are you going to resign in recognition of what has gone wrong? We know the MEC has resigned. Now, are you also going to resign?
I will not run away from disciplinary charges. I think it's only fair that I face the disciplinary hearing. It's only fair. If I resign now, then the charges are no longer there. But it's only fair again. It's only fair that I go for a
What
disciplinary
form do
hearing.
you think your accountability should take, which you have publicly acknowledged? I think council is trying to understand what should we make of your saying, I assume responsibility, I was the leader. What should be the consequences of assuming responsibility,
Yeah, but now,
in your
Judge,
view?
Judge, you are saying I must even prejudge what the disciplinary hearing
No,
is
I don't
going
want to
to
get
say.
into a disciplinary hearing at all. I'm asking, what do you mean when you say you accept accountability?
I'm saying I derive it from the fact that as the accounting officer, if anything goes wrong under your watch, whether you knew about it, whether you are not active involved in it, it doesn't matter. You must stand up and say, I take accountability for this, and I am willing that if there's a process, for instance, a disciplinary hearing, to face the disciplinary hearing. I will not stand up and say, no, let it be somebody else. I was not there. You
But
didn't
you'll
give
not
me
follow
good
the
info.
example of the MEC and fall on your sword. In other words, acknowledge that something has gone wrong under your watch.
She doesn't, I don't know, but politicians, do they go through disciplinary hearings? I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know that.
Okay, but let's talk about you for a while. How would you acknowledge that things have gone wrong under your watch?
I'm going to acknowledge, if given a chance, irrespective of how the families here feel, I'll stand up.
No,
And I will say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'm going to stand up.
would you claim your job back after this process is done,
After the disciplinary hearing,
including that, yes? Do you feel you must get your job back?
I don't know, Judge, I don't know how to answer that one. I think it's a difficult question. It's the most difficult question ever. It's not really about a job here. It's about a lot of things. My family is going through pain. My friends are going through pain.
So,
Yeah.
Counsel?
Thank you. I'm going to argue that you've shown no remorse for what went wrong in the witness box.
I differ so much with you.
If you are so eager to come and show what went wrong, why was it so difficult to get you here to come and testify? If you have nothing to hide.
Can we not discuss that now? Because you are the lawyer, you know the Constitution better than I do. Also, the Constitution has conferred some rights to me as a citizen.
Yeah, I'm not denying
But
that,
you agree
Doctor.
with that,
Doctor, I
Counsel?
don't deny that you've rights, but
I've got
I can only
constitutional
think that
rights.
somebody that is so sorry for what has happened would run to this arbitration to say, this is what I have done wrong, please help. And you haven't done that. Why is that?
With respect to you, Judge, please forgive me.
Yeah.
I think, Counsel, you are openly infringing on my constitutional rights, and it's not right. It's not fair.
Let's hear the question again, Counsel.
My question is
Why
just
did I
this.
go for
If
arbitration?
But I'm going to argue that this witness has not shown any remorse, and he doesn't agree with that. And I said that if a person are sorry what have happened, they would have come running to this arbitration to tell their side of the story.
What counsel is doing now is what we do often in law. At the end of the hearing, she's going to argue that your say-so that you are remorseful was not a genuine one. And you're entitled to say, no, it is
No,
genuine, or it is not genuine.
She's missed it entirely.
So your answer is that your remorse is genuine,
The pain,
and your accountability is genuine.
genuine. The pain, the families may not believe it. It's not, a modicum of
Let's not
yes.
heckle, please.
Judge, it's Judge Mesenek. When these things happen under your watch, when you want all that you ever wanted in your life, I worked for private. I had my own private practice. I worked for I don't want to mention the name of one of the big three companies. I worked for the South African Medical Association. I chose to come to the state. I worked as a CEO at Charlotte Macleod. It's all that sometimes you want to say, this country has carried me to this far. I have a duty to pay back. I have a duty to pay back. Now, you may not believe it, but I gave you a hint into the window that in my youth, this is what I've always wanted to do, to care for our own. If the council thinks that I'm not remorseful, the pain I carry, it's a blot to me. It's a blot to me. It's a blot that whatever happens, it will never, ever go away. Never. Never. These are things that you carry for the rest of your life. It will never go away. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter. It will never, ever go away. You don't want this type of things to happen while you are in charge. You don't want that.
Of course, one way of closure, Doctor, is to look into the mirror and accept what one sees. In other words, to confront the truth. Is it not?
It's true.
That's one way of easing pain after making mistakes or errors, and errors that hurt other people, that lead to the death of their loved ones. Isn't it fair? Is it much to ask that you, the leader, you, the captain, acknowledge that things went wrong under your watch,
Terribly wrong.
and that you made mistakes in the course of implementing this project? I don't know how you can escape that.
As much I have accepted.
You'll be given an opportunity later to say that, I suppose, more. But I think it's a bare minimum of remorse is to acknowledge what went wrong, painful as it is, particularly if it has hurt other people. Council, any further points?
I have no further questions.
You have
Thank
no
you,
further
Justice.
questions on this?
Thank you.
Very well. Thank you ever so much, Council, for the intense and dedicated work. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice.
Yes, I see you can't wait.
Well,
Council.
the last in line, unfortunately, the plates are almost empty, Justice.
Oh, the
but
plates are almost empty, yeah?
Yeah. No, Justice, I don't think we would be too long, but yeah. Dr. Esidimeni, my name is Dirk Groenewald, and I represent 4 families that has lost loved ones, specifically at CCRC.
Thank you, Council. You said Dirk. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Dr. Esidimeni, I would like to start off. My colleague has referred you to LR 114. That's your affidavit in respect of the appeal of the Ombudsman's report. I'd like us to start off there. If someone can take you there. Thank you.
Ella 114.
LR 114, yes.
Okay.
And I would like you to go to paragraphs 26.
I'm there, Council.
Yes. Now there, the last sentence on that page, you say that the project was implemented as planned until the MEC established the project marathon team, which fast-tracked the process to complete it within 6 months instead of the initial intention to deinstitutionalize approximately 20% of mentally ill patients per year. So was it your evidence that the MEC established the project team?
The marathon project.
Yes.
Yes.
Now the marathon project, that's the project that was supposed to see to the discharge of patients from Life Esidimeni to the NGOs. Am I correct?
At a high pace, yes.
Yes. I would like you to refer you to LR5.
Okay, I'm there.
Now, Mr. Mosinogi testified here,
That's right.
and we presented this document to him, and he explained it to be the official appointment documentation of the team, of the project task team. Do you recognize this document, sir?
Yes. These were the nominees to serve on the project team.
Yes. And who authorized and established this team?
I nominated the people here and submitted them for MEC's agreement. Sorry, Council, for MEC's agreement, yes.
No, sir. Let's look there at the last page.
Which
It
last page?
says, the last page of this document,
Page 404
page 44,
of LR5.
Okay,
LR5.
I see that.
It says approved. Now, Mr. Mosinogi testified that you, Dr. Silibano, you approved this task team, this project team.
The project team.
Yes.
Yes, I will not argue in terms of me and the MEC. Yes, it's fine.
So, but once again, sir, you are giving us contradictory. Your evidence is not consistent. Do you agree with me?
No, maybe it's because you're looking at the project team, this one, and then the project marathon. So this is the team, and then there was a marathon team constituting of Dr. Manamela and other officials who were now doing the actual placement. This team, Manamela, Lebete, Mazamisa, if you can see, it's a huge team of senior managers. They were not doing the actual operational placement of patients. They were not.
You see, sir, that is not consistent with the evidence that we heard during these proceedings. You know Mrs. Matsotsu?
The DG?
Yes.
Matsuso, yes.
She lectured me, gave me a one-on-one on the difference between a policy, a contract, and the program, marathon program.
She's good at that, yes. Sir.
Yeah, she was very good at that.
She does that every time.
Yeah.
She's very good on those.
Now, according to her evidence, this marathon project, as you also just now testified, sir, the marathon project was the project to discharge patients from life Esidimeni to NGOs.
Rapidly, yes.
Yes.
That's the marathon.
But this is the exact team that Mr. Mosinogi testified and said they were responsible for this task.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm not arguing. Can I just show that? I'll give you an example. Number 12, just randomly calling. If you look at number 12, this is a supply chain guy. He's a finance guy. He wouldn't really in any way get involved in placing patients. He was just there to assist in how this works, how that works. I'm sure I'm trying to create a distinction of this team and the marathon literally meaning people operationally now running around taking patients. Which
Taking
costs the
patients
problem.
where, sir?
Taking patients from life Esidimeni to the NGOs.
To the NGOs.
Yes.
And the evidence that we had was all these people had a role to play in either identifying the NGOs, the clinicians to go and see to the patients, the infrastructure to go and see whether or not the NGOs was fit, the finance department that played a role to see whether or not there were service level agreements, budgets, human resources. The long and the short is all these individuals, Mr. Mosinogi, who was the project team leader, he said this was the team.
Yes, I hear you, Council, with respect. That's why I was giving you, for instance, I'll give you Mr. Botsani for budget. He wouldn't be the right guy who would be going to NGO and start saying whether, I went there, I also battled to say whether is this, that,
But
what
Doc,
is
why are we
required.
spending so much time? This advocate is just warming up to get to the real issues.
Okay.
The
Sorry,
letter, look at the
advocate.
letter. Look at, it's written to you. Can you
Sorry-
see that?
sorry,
It's directed to you as head of department.
Yes.
There's the date, and then they talk. There's the project team headed by Mr. Musinoki, and then here are the subcommittees or functional teams.
Yes.
And they're broken up, and this
Into-
is written all to you for your approval.
Yes.
And the evidence says you approved it. But why are we spending so much time on this?
I thought.
Don't
with-
anticipate any catch,
Okay.
anything up front.
Okay, so sorry,
Was this
sorry.
the team appointed, sent to you, and the letter
I
says
appointed.
so on its face?
Yes. I
Shall-
signed
shall-
for this team.
Yes. Let's go on.
Thank
Sorry,
you, sir.
sorry, Judge.
But the MEC didn't appoint them.
She didn't appoint them. Like
She didn't appoint them. You did.
I nominated them. If you look at
Yes,
the letter,
sir.
it says
Sir.
nominees.
Sir, short and sweet, you signed this document, you approved this team.
Okay. I'll give it to you, Council, yes.
Thank you, sir. You give it to me, and you're contradicting the evidence that you presented to the tribunal. You agree with me as well?
Which one, Council?
Well, you said the MEC appointed them.
You see, that's why it ended up going toing and froing. I was trying to explain that, and that's why I said I'm giving it to you.
I will leave that for argument, sir. I think we can move on. All right, sir. So now I would just like to understand it's something that's a bit still a grey area for me. You have the 2013-2020 policy, the 2013-2020 policy.
2020 policy, yes.
Yes. All right. You have the contract with Life Esidimeni, and then we had the marathon project.
Okay.
Now, from the evidence of Dr. Manamela, the department was already in a process of reducing the number of beds at Life Esidimeni.
The number of patients, yes.
Yeah, the number of patients. And there was a strict quota that they needed to comply with in terms of the service level agreement.
Yeah.
Yes. And was it the ultimate goal that at some point in time there would be no patients at Life Esidimeni?
That was the ultimate, yes.
Yes. Now, my colleague who represents Section 27 has referred you to the letters of April and June, where these specialists, these experts, they said, this 2020 plan, what you're busy with, the reduction of the beds and the patients at Life Esidimeni, it's going to have a disastrous effect.
Yes.
And it was put to you that you disregarded the advice. And you said yes, in hindsight.
In hindsight.
Yes, in hindsight. I put it to you, you went much further than just disregarding the advice. Because within 3 months, 2 months, you decided, well, we're not going to wait till 2020. We're simply going to finish this within 2016.
That's correct.
So you upped your game.
I'm not quarreling with what you're saying. It's true.
And that was one of the issues that was canvassed also by the Ombud with you.
That why did, yes.
The experts tell you, even your 2020 plan is not good, and you go ahead and you make it to 2016 plan.
Council Groenewald, all I can tell you, this is a very regrettable episode that should have never happened, Council. It should have never happened. It's disgraceful,
So
to say the least.
there's no one more than that feels that way than the family members sitting behind me.
I know that very, very well.
But let's move on, sir. You testified yesterday that they even wanted to cancel the contract earlier.
Okay, yes. There was a letter that it was discussed, and then you're right, there was an attempt to do
Yeah, but we want details. I want to know about it. Who wrote the letter? Who presented the letter? Who discussed it?
the collective, the management team, I signed the letter for life, and then they said, no, you can't do that, you must give us 6 months. That's why we came with another letter.
So when did you actually, when did you want to cancel the contract?
No, I think the letter that was saying that, I don't recall whether we're saying we're giving them a month or 3 months. I don't recall the contents.
Might it have been March of 2015 already?
I don't recall. I don't recall. I'm not playing around with you. I don't honestly recall. But I do recall there was that letter.
Just quickly remind me of the effective date of your appointment as HOD.
1st of May 2015.
1st May 2015.
Yes, but before then I was the acting.
You were acting before then.
Yes.
Is it you who upped the game once you got into office?
No, I didn't do that.
No?
No, I didn't do that.
Because you were a new HOD, weren't you? I'm just following up on what Councillor Kunabal put to you. You are a new HOD, you get into power, and you cancel. On short gun, and you told, no, we're entitled to a 6 months notice. Was it you who was so eager to pull the trigger?
It's not like that.
It's not like that.
Justice. No, it's not like that. It's not like that. Justice.
Who insisted that the patients must be taken out of life as Esidimeni?
Justice, like I said yesterday, dishonesty is one of the things that I can't do.
Yes.
I will not here come and say it's so and so, it's so and so. I can't do that because I'll be, trying to shift the blame to other people and all that. There was, like I did indicate, there had been discussions previously and all the issues of managing costs and all that, you are getting a bad AG results.
Let's go back to Advocate Groenewald, that's fine. It just struck me that this happened shortly after you came into office.
There had been other HODs before my time.
Continue, Councillor.
Sorry about that, Justice.
No, that's fine.
Thank you, Justice.
Sorry.
Dr. But the long and the short of the argument is just simply that there was a plan, it was a 2020 plan, you came into office and you make it a 2016 plan.
No, it's not like that.
You signed the letter of termination.
I'm the HOD.
Yes.
I have to sign a letter. If
Yes.
colleagues say, we've discussed, here's a letter. Just as a side, if you were to be appointed today, council, tomorrow you'll have to sign so many things. That's how it happens.
But the responsible HOD don't just simply signs everything that's on its table, his or her table. He or she would interrogate it and find out whether or not it's right to sign it. Isn't that so?
It's true.
It's true.
It's true.
And the question is, and we will get to it, but did you consider all the facts before you signed it?
On the table at that time, the facts were saying, I've got to sign. I agree. I agree.
We will get to that, sir.
Okay.
So, you say, sir, listen, yeah, I'm very sorry about what happened here, but the long and the short is, I didn't micromanage my team. I trusted my team. And I was there in my office, and I just hoped that everything was going well.
On the balance of evidence, everything should go well, and I know it didn't go well.
Well, am I correct? That's what you're saying. You're saying this tragedy happened, but I didn't know what was going on there at the NGOs because I didn't micromanage, and I trusted my employees and my managers.
Managers, like in any other programming, all the programs they sit, they present, and I say, yes, go on. Okay. Yes, go on. Yes, go on. Unfortunately and tragically on this one.
And it was your testimony, sir, if I'm not mistaken, that you said you didn't You weren't part of the marathon project, but the marathon project, according to you, was the physical removal of the patients to NGOs and so on. Is that correct?
Yes. The project, it was more on deinstitutionalization.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but so I would like to take you to file 8. File 8, if somebody can assist you to get file 8 and page 2769.
Page 2.
2769.
I'm there, Council.
Thanks, sir. Can you just identify this document? Do you know this document?
Resolution for the MEC meeting with senior managers on early contract relationship termination, 8/4/2016. Venue, MEC office.
8th of April 2016.
Yes, April. Yes.
Yes. Venue MEC office.
Yes.
Do you recall this meeting?
Yeah. I
You
think
do?
I recall. Yeah, I can just maybe just run through it so that.
Go through
Okay.
it, please, sir.
Arrangements to Home Affairs for the movement of foreigners to the countries. Okay, I remember that.
Doesn't matter.
No, no, okay. Will be absorbed, okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. Where?
All right, you will
Okay.
see there's, sir, you will see there's tasks, target date, and responsible person.
That's right.
Now, you will agree with me that responsible person, that implies that whoever's given the task, his or her name will appear there.
That's right.
All right. Now let's just quickly see at how many places your name appears in this instance. 1. The first one, an arrangement has to be made with the HOD of Home Affairs for the movement of foreigners to their countries and also HODs of other provinces for the movement of users back to their provinces.
Yes.
A responsible person is
It's myself.
yourself. Now is this micromanagement?
No, no, no. The thing here is there is no way that any other official other than myself can talk to an HOD of any other province or talk to a DG. So if anything is to be done with a DG or an HOD, it must be through my office, not necessarily through my office.
Okay. Then if we go further down, 1, 2, 3, 4. More information on the 109 users who are receiving grants while at Life Esidimeni that was requested. HO to liaise with SASA leaders.
That's true. It's me again. To talk to social development DG there, or the leaders.
Okay, but did you do this, sir?
You mean literally talk to somebody at SASA?
Yeah.
No, my team, I take responsibilities in it to say, okay, I'll write a letter to social development and say to them, these are the issues that we're having. And then ordinarily, sometimes the response will say, thank you,
The
sir.
question is, did you do it?
Yes. I wrote a letter and they gave us the officials and we included social development, our local social development.
See, sir, in some of these NGOs, was it not for that SASA grants, I think much more patients would have died because they weren't receiving any subsidy from your department.
But isn't it here they were saying to look at those who are receiving grants while at LE?
More information. Long and the short is, did you do it or did you not do it?
I did that to
You
check
did that.
who are the patients, like the first one, Home Affairs, do they have IDs? Are they receiving grants while at LE?
Oh, no. I'll get back to that. just the one below that. You are in this meeting, sir. You are hearing all of this evidence. You are hearing all of these facts.
That's right.
295 beds for hospitals must be available by next week. One below. 447 beds of Kalafong Hospital must be ready by end of May. Now we know that this is now in April, beginning of April. Beginning of May, the first patients were transferred. I'm talking about CCRC now. But there the transfers was already busy. We're still sorting out these beds. Go second one, or just one below. The equipment like beds, linen, clothing, and others, a plan has to be presented. We are in a process of actually already transferring patients, and we still need a plan in respect of equipment like beds, linen, and clothing.
Give the witness an opportunity to respond to that. What do you say to that?
I follow what he's saying, and I don't know whether you want to say, do I agree with what happened or not? Yes, this was the discussion.
You can say yes, that is true. No,
Yes, that is true. Yes, this was the discussion. Sorry, Council.
Now the one below that, a visit by management and doctors should be undertaken to view the identified NGOs.
That's right.
Responsible persons there?
Silabano, Dr. Park, Dr. Madihwe, Professor Musa, and Mr. Mosenofi.
Did you go and visit the NGOs, sir?
I went to one only. Because here we actually had, there was a team. Because NGOs, one would be in Hammanskraal in Temba, the other one. The one I went to was the one in Vereeniging. I went to that one in Vereeniging.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but you testified that you actually went to no NGO.
No, I said I was not operational. I was not operational. Here, I went to one NGO. You didn't really say because you went to one, then you are very operational. No.
But you'd say your exact words were, I went to no NGO. I didn't go to any NGO.
Don't remember that, honestly.
But the long and the short is, sir, you were required, in terms of this document, you were required to go and visit the identified NGOs. And on your own submission, you only went to one.
Yes, Dr. Park went to another region. Dr. Madihwe went to another area. Prof. Musa went to another area.
But you needed many NGOs. Why do you go to one?
Justice?
The project needed many NGOs.
Okay. I went to the VAL.
Why did you go to one?
Okay, myself, I went to VAL to this NGO. Dr. Park went to the ones, if I recall, in the West Rand, and we all distributed into the province. It wouldn't be feasible to go to all of them at the same time.
Sir, I put it to you that if you indeed went to these identified NGOs, you would not have discharged the patients.
Yes, you're right. When I think about it, that if it had happened that I'm able to go to all the NGOs, yes.
Now here's another issue, sir. You said, I didn't know that there was anything wrong at the NGOs. Second one, in April of 2016, NGO profiles must be submitted and presented.
Where is that?
It's just the next, the one below, the one I just presented to you. NGO profiles must be submitted and presented. We are in April. Patients are being transferred. You are requesting that NGO profiles must be submitted and presented.
I hear you.
Negligent, you accept, sir.
Negligent.
Reckless, you accept.
No, I don't accept that. No.
You don't accept that, sir.
Negligent, I don't know why you say use. It's a hard word to use. Reckless.
No, people are being moved already by April 2016, and your minute where you are present tells us that NGOs have to be checked out.
No, present profiles. This is NGO A. It has this capacity,
Yes.
this and this and this and that.
Thank you for the correction.
This is one.
To
this
present
is one.
profiles.
Yes.
But Justice, before you go there, I
Yep,
would just...
you go ahead.
Yeah,
It's your
no,
point,
no,
Councillor.
my apologies. Now, on that issue, sir, let me take you to the first one. The first item on page 2770.
27.
Just the
Should
next page.
Should I? Yes.
Yeah. Same meeting. NGO marathon and verification of NGOs must be done by end of April. So what now, sir? We're not requesting their profiles. We need to verify them. No verification has been done.
But yes, I hear what you're saying and I understand what you're saying. But there are other. I don't want to come out. You know, Council. I don't want to come out defending NGOs here. I can't do that. There's no way that I can start defending NGOs. And the more I try to explain, I'll come out as if I'm defending NGOs. Can I accept what you're saying? I can't defend NGOs. I can't at all.
No, thank you for that, sir. But the next step would be to take responsibility and say, well, I shouldn't have sent them to these NGOs. But that would have been the next step.
But you see, by that time, I didn't know that what are this type of NGOs. What type of NGOs are these?
But I'll go through this document and then I'll engage you on that submission because it's, yeah, quite frankly, just unbelievable for me. But let's go down. So I want you, it's the second, third, the fourth one. Now, once again, you are in this meeting. You are the HOD. You are the captain of the ship, as my colleague has put it to you. And there it says, users from Life Esidimeni may be transferred to NGO, and doctors will follow them at NGO to assess them and replace them to the relevant facility if there is a need. So you're saying the people are saying, listen, let's just get the patients in the NGOs. We will send doctors to assess them and see whether or not they need to go to another facility.
That's wrong. Yeah.
That's
I see.
reckless, sir. It is. You agree?
It was not thought out clear. It was not thought out, honestly.
It's reckless, sir. Once again, if you go 3 lines down, 950 users must be moved by end of April 2016 to identified NGO beds. 950 patients by end of April. Was there no point in time where you said it's impossible?
Council, I wish at that time, sitting with all those people that you saw here, I wish I could have just said that. Honestly speaking. I just wish I could have said that.
Now the second last one, sir. A report on the NGOs we have been supporting and the spending. Dr. Silabano, did you compile such a report?
No, I don't recall having this. This we're talking about some of the NGOs that are working with in other programs, and we wanted to know how are we supporting them and all that. So I don't recall if I got the report.
Now let's consider this again, sir. You say you didn't micromanage, and you didn't know what was going on at the NGOs. Now, I put it to you that based on this document, simply this document, there's a lot of other evidence as well, but based on this document, it's quite clear that you should have known, must have known, that the NGOs would not have been capable to look after the patients.
Council, I don't want to defend NGOs. What happened is horrible in those NGOs.
So I'm asking you a question. I'm putting it something to you. I want you to say, I admit or I deny, yes or no, and then you can give an explanation for me. So I put it to you. You have all the documentation, the experts, Section 27, all of these people coming to you, SADC, and so on. You went to court. You still persist. You and Mr. Mosinogi, you decide in February, you support him, you say, we cannot go on. You tell him, write a letter to the MEC. By then you already know. Now you're sitting in a meeting in April, and you hear all of these facts. You must have known.
In that meeting, everybody is agreeable that this project will work. I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have known.
But in hindsight,
I
you admit.
I wish I could have stopped this project on its tracks.
In hindsight,
In hindsight.
any reasonable HOD that sat in that meeting would have said, stop this right now.
I don't agree with you.
You don't
No. With the size of Gauteng being the biggest department, no HOD would have been able to predict that.
We will get back to that, sir. Now, I want to notice that you said that you did not sign the extension letter.
Yeah.
The life Esidimeni contract that was extended to 3 months. You actually
I thought
it was for 2 months.
Yes.
Now, how is it possible that the HOD of a department doesn't know that the contract, who only he can terminate or enter into, is extended?
It happened, and I recalled during the night yesterday, I said, earlier hours, I said, now I remember, I think, Justice, that an announcement was made. An announcement was made by the MEC to say we're extending the contract. There was no formal.
Yeah, that's what
I
you're being
stand-
asked. How could any other person extend the contract but you?
Yeah, it was.
You're the one who cancelled it, you had the power to cancel it.
That's why I'm saying I then recalled during the night
That was the MEC who
that the MEC
Cancelled
extended
it.
it. Extended. It was an
extended.
extension.
There's your answer,
It
Council.
was an extension.
Did she decide that on her own?
She announced it. That's why I didn't even know about that it has been extended.
So she overruled you.
In a way, you can say that, but
No.
it does.
In a way. What does that mean, sir?
You see, when you say overall, it's like there's something that I said and then she changed that. No, that's why I said in a way.
Now, sir, I put it to you that you have, in fact, not taken any responsibility for what happened here. You said to my colleague, no, you did take responsibility.
You need a response there.
Oh, you didn't? I thought you're still talking.
You did not take responsibility.
I've taken accountability for
Okay.
what happened. I've been in pains even to point to other people because I think when you're a leader, you don't start by pointing out other people. You say to yourself, it happened under my watch. I'm the one who must take accountability for this. I'm not too sure to what extent can I.
Responsibility, sir, Did you or did you not take any disciplinary action against your employees that you so trusted?
We spoke about that yesterday.
You did
no,
not take?
No. Yes,
You
we
did
spoke
not
about
take?
that. No, I didn't.
All right, so you did not take responsibility for your employees?
We spoke about that
Because
yesterday.
you did not discipline, you didn't investigate them even.
The ombuds was already in the picture,
The
so I didn't
ombuds-
do that.
The ombuds is not the HOD, you agree? The ombud,
Maybe I did say yesterday that maybe I could have done a separate disciplinary inquiry. I didn't do it.
once again, sir, you have not taken responsibility because you have, amongst other, you have appealed the findings of the ombud. Your employer accepts the finding of the ombud, but you don't want to accept it.
Do you agree also? I mean, I think even in the National Health Act, I was given a letter by the minister to say, if you want to appeal, you have a right to do that. It's a constitutional right. It has no bearing, really, to the way the council is judging me. I was
Well,
just
council is
exercising.
saying that if
I was exercising a constitutional right.
you're right, you're entitled to exercise
I'm entitled
the right.
to that.
You're entitled to exercise it. But he's saying out of that conduct, he infers that you are not remorseful. The state says we accept things have gone wrong. You want to appeal against the finding of the ombud. So he says, he doesn't challenge your right to do it. He says, that shows you are not regretful.
It's not really, if the state just accepted now, and the events of the appeal, the letter that I was given was early February 2017. The state has just accepted now. I mean, how would I have known that the state would do that?
So all these things points to you not taking responsibility. You are saying each and every time, I take accountability for this. I take accountability for this. But what does it mean? Because what have you done, sir? You haven't taken disciplinary action against any of your employees. You have appealed the findings of the ombud. You have done everything in your power not to come and testify at these proceedings. You have not resigned. You have now taken a salary from the state for, 10 months now?
I didn't suspend myself.
Exactly.
I didn't. If you said to me I should go to work tomorrow, I will go to work. I'll wake up and go to work. So the laws also, council, the laws of the country also applies to me. I'm sure you know that.
In your view, sir, what does taking responsibility mean?
I've said I've taken accountability, and the matter, with due respect, Judge, I always refer to you when I'm like this, that the matter is going to be ventilated in a disciplinary hearing where my accountability will be tested. That's what I'm saying.
No, the council is saying the extent that you have told this tribunal it happened under your watch and you are accountable, he's entitled to test that evidence to say what shows that you are accountable. He's listed 5 things which he says to you show that you are not accountable. You have not taken responsibility. And you can come back and say to him, no, you have. And say why you say you have. You understand what's happening now? Council has just put to you 5 things that show you have not. And the question is,
including
what
the
is your
limitations of my right as a citizen. I have, irrespective, even the worst of the West, they have rights.
Yeah.
The Constitution protects.
You may say, well, those things do not point to the fact that I am not remorseful.
Okay, I didn't. You have put it better for me. Thank you
Yeah.
Thank you, Justice.
Council is going to argue ultimately when there's going to be an argument stage
Okay.
that you were not remorseful, though you say so.
I am.
And it's giving you the opportunity to respond to the charge. It's what's happening now.
Yeah.
So you have to tell us, why do you think you are remorseful? Why do you think you are accountable? Why are you taking responsibility for things that happened under your watch? And why do you say you are? Because he says you are not.
Remorse it's an emotional state where you look at everything around you and said, if I had an opportunity to change things and not do things this way, I would change and do them differently. And then you look at the impact of that, what happened. And that's where the remorse starts to say, this that has happened has resulted in this. And I wish that I wouldn't have taken that type of step which has resulted in this. And that's why I said, I'm subjecting even myself to a disciplinary hearing. And other organs of state most probably are going to get involved. And I'm going to cooperate with other organs of state. I don't know, but I can't limit my right as a citizen also.
What have you done to correct for your flaws?
I'm out of the system now. I'm out
Well,
of
sir,
the system.
the patients were transferred in 2016. You, and we will get to that, the minister, well, Dr. Manamela testified and she said she informed you of all the deaths. And she already knew of the deaths that early or end of June. And she said, no, she informed you. She informed the HOD. But the long and short being that in July, end of July, beginning of August, on your own testimony, you were aware of this crisis.
And I had a discussion with the minister.
And you had a discussion with the minister.
And I moved and patients out of NGOs
But what,
to prevent more deaths.
and what have you done to correct for the deaths that at that point in time was already there? What have you done for these family members' loved ones to hold those accountable that was responsible for their loved ones' deaths? What did you do? You did nothing, sir. I put it to you, you did nothing.
I hear you, Council.
Yes.
I hear you.
You closed down the other NGOs, but you did nothing after that.
I hear you, Council.
Yes. Having heard him, do you want to respond? The proposition is that though you say you are remorseful, you have done nothing to show it. That's the accusation.
I'm not sure, yeah, I'm not sure as an individual in the department, there is this tragedy that has happened. The province is hyper. What, as an individual, I would have done. If you can suggest that this is what we have done, if there's time now, I will still do it.
Is
to the
council
patients.
right that you are still earning your salary?
Yes, it's correct.
You suspended the full salary.
Yes, I'm suspended.
And we know that from a, just on that point, we know that from an answer to a parliamentary question, as at July 2017, you have already earned almost 800,000 rand
Before
while
tax.
while being on suspension.
Before tax, yes.
So one can almost double that.
It's before tax. But I'm sure, Council, you know, that I didn't suspend myself. And I said, if I were to go back tomorrow, I will go back.
Now, sir, would you agree with me and you understand that you have done nothing to hold those accountable that caused the deaths of these patients.
Yes, I've not done anything. I've never had the opportunity
No,
to
sir.
do that.
No, sir. You, as the HOD, started in July, August, on your own evidence. You said the MEC instructed you and said that you must go and close some of these NGOs. So, and you were only suspended
February.
February. So what gives that? That gives us 7, 8 months.
I hear you. Yesterday,
Okay, but yes or no, sir?
I didn't do. I
Yes.
didn't do. Yes.
Okay. So
You know what comes to mind, sorry, Council, is why wasn't the department concerned about how all these people will be buried? They're in your care. They die in these circumstances. And their bodies are in various mortuaries,
That's fine.
placed there by NGOs,
That's fine.
and many of them impecunious, with no money. Why wasn't it part of your department's program to wonder and do something about where and how these victims should be buried?
I recall, we could have done more enough, like you are saying, we could have done a lot. I recall I recall that there was an attempt by Dr. Lebete, if I'm not mistaken. He contacted the family. My facts are not going to be clear, Justice. And he came back running because the family felt like you are now trying to bribe us. But there are families, I recall, in Orlando, that I went out to assist with the burial. I raised from friends, I asked people, because I was also scared that they must not take it that I want to give them money, so that they must keep quiet about it. So I did that. Now that you are saying
Why did the
it,
department have a program to find out people who died at NGOs? The number was climbing, and people like Precious Angels were struggling
yes,
with many bodies in their custody. Did you hear the tales?
yes, I heard the tales.
And they put bodies in walk-in coolers at butcheries and so on. But why wasn't the department there at least to pick up the corpses?
Well, they claim that the butchery is actually a funeral parlor, which it's in Atteridgeville, that it was never, the name remained butchery. I'm saying what I heard. But we took, I remember very well, I took some of the bodies to our Pretoria mortuary. I did that. I took some of them from Pretoria West. I took some from Kalafu. I did that. And in fact, I think it's some of the bodies that I said, I spoke with MEC.
Are there any bodies that you buried or paid the cost of burial? We've said many days here and listened to how...
As a department, no, but like I said, I remember the family in Orlando. I raised funds from friends. I remember that for sure. It's a pity I don't recall the name, but I know that family, we assisted it, we bought vegetables, we did everything.
But why didn't the department take this responsibility? These were people who were not earning an income. They were institutionalized, and now they've passed on.
Yes, I suppose, you know, when people have passed away and you are inside there, the trauma that you go through throws you also into paralysis, you know. Where most of us were traumatized and are still traumatized.
There are stories of difficulties from families, how they had to scrape money to bury, as you'd expect.
As you'd expect, I mean, if struggling families that now they're inundated with body, I understand
Yeah.
that more than well.
And did the department care? How are these bodies buried?
We never did anything as a department.
Yeah.
I must accept. I must
Council.
accept.
Thank you, Justin. Now, sir, yesterday you said, and well, today as well, you said any other HOD would have done the same as you did. And you said no other HOD could have done better. And I think you also suggested that my colleague who represents Section 2017, I think you also suggested that she couldn't have done better.
I apologized for that
Yeah.
comment. I still want to apologize, Council.
No,
I really, really apologize.
and you are relying quite a bit on your hindsight, sir. Now, I've tried to summarize your evidence in respect of your hindsight admissions. The things that you said, well, in hindsight, I admit, I concede that was, well. Now let's just see what your hindsight tells us. It tells us that you should have listened to the experts' advice given in April 2015, June 2015. That's
Correct.
Stop
correct.
there, and so the
Correct.
witness can
Yes.
confirm.
Correct.
Correct. It tells us that you should have adhered to the settlement agreement that you entered into.
Settlement agreement.
Yes, sir. That my colleague referred you to
Please remind me of.
Settlement agreement
in December
in December.
Oh yes,
2015.
Yeah, the agreement
With
with
Section
Life
27.
Esidimeni,
Yes.
with Section 27. Yes, yes.
Yes, no, hindsight tells us,
Hindsight, yes.
yes, tells us that you should have adhered to that settlement agreement.
Agreed.
Hindsight tells us that you should have supported Mr. Mosenogi and demanded that the project be extended.
I accept that.
You should have stood up that
I
day.
should have stood up. I should
And
have
the
stood up.
MEC said to him, are you working for Life Esidimeni or for us?
I
You had-
should have stood up, Council. I should have stood up. I should have stood up.
Hindsight tells us that you should have bought Life Esidimeni or the facilities because you could have.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Hindsight tells us that you should not have lied under oath in the March 2016 urgent application.
Can you remind me? I don't remember.
My colleague presented you your affidavit in the March 2016 urgent application, where they said, where you took the time to go through the affidavit, and you came back and you said, well, you can't believe what you've said here. And you admit that there.
On hindsight, all the factors that were raised in that affidavit are correct. I agree.
In hindsight, are they correct or incorrect?
No. I thought you were saying when I was directed to a section where I said I have actually even marked it myself.
Yes.
All that was there. On hindsight, it is, I don't know now whether to say it shouldn't have happened. That's what I said.
You shouldn't have said it. In hindsight,
It shouldn't have happened,
you
yes.
shouldn't have said what you said in that affidavit because it wasn't true.
At that time, when it was presented to me, it was something else. On hindsight, you look at it, you say, what have we done here?
Now, in hindsight, you should have demanded proof that the NGOs was fit for purpose.
On hindsight, I could have been with senior managers, not only that were rigorous about these NGOs.
But you testified. You said that they should have been fit for purpose. They should have
Fit
been
for
yeah.
purpose, yes. Yes.
So you agree in hindsight?
In hindsight,
you
yes.
should have, as the
Yes.
HOD,
Yes.
you should have demanded proof that the NGOs
That's
was
correct.
fit for purpose.
That's correct.
In hindsight, you should have inspected the NGOs yourself.
The answer is yes, but to what extent would that have been feasible? That's something else, but yes.
In hindsight, you should have demanded or implemented a monitoring system to see how the patients were doing.
That's correct.
In hindsight, you should have and you could have stopped the program.
I suppose I should have, or I could have. I could have. On hindsight, and I look at the tragedy and the horror now, I said, I wish I could have stopped the project.
In hindsight, you should have considered what the impact of the termination would be on the employees of Life Esidimeni.
If I recall, it's a pity I don't have numbers, and they were going to be checked, the numbers. Some indeed suffered because of the closure, but others were also absorbed into the system. So you don't wish anybody to be unemployed. I honestly feel bad about that also.
So I put it to you that no reasonable HOD would have made all of these mistakes.
But no reasonable HOD would have known that these are the things that will happen in future.
Sir,
You know what is the effect of this whole hindsight questions?
No.
They are that you should have had the foresight to prevent these things. Hindsight is nice, but what really counsel is listening to you vital things and says, if you are a good HOD, you should have had foresight. Or can put it the other way around.
No.
The council is going to argue. Once you're done in argument and say, look at this. He had this foresight. I'm raising it with you so to give you the opportunity to deal with it. If you did your work properly, you would have known all these things. You probably argue that, in fact, you knew all these things.
No, Justice. No. It's not true. I would never do that.
Okay, let's put it the other way around.
Okay.
In fact, you should have known all these things.
At that point in time, the plan was working well. It looked fine that this is going to go according to plan. The only time you know that the plan is wrong, it's when it has been implemented. It's never easy to work out a plan. Before you know whether the house is going to work out, you've got to build it first.
It's a strange approach to management, to administration.
You would never do
You know
anything.
whether a plan is good only when it has failed. It's
No,
strange.
when it is implemented. When it's implemented.
Yeah, it's a strange approach to project management.
No.
Let's close our eyes and go and try it. It bombs out, you say, damn.
No.
I did not know it. I could not have known.
No.
Now I know because it has bombed out.
No.
Okay, explain. Help me.
No. Justice, you are putting it.
Am I putting it badly?
Yeah, you are.
Okay,
No.
put it correctly then.
You know, Justice. You know that you plan for everything. We normally say it in our country that we've got good policies, but most of the time the problem comes with implementation. That is the same what I'm trying to explain to you, that I'm not saying you come up with a massive plan and then you wait for it to fail. In health, sometimes the difference, sorry, you wanted to say something?
No.
Okay. So I'm saying in real situations, you put a plan, you implement it. You go and tweak it as you, as
Have you heard about stress testing a plan?
yes, I know how you
When you stress test a plan, do you know about identifying risks
risk
in
management.
project management?
That's right.
Something called risk management.
That's right. I know that.
Have you heard about a tracking system in a project
Yes, I know that.
as you start implementing? All of those things must be known to an HOD, isn't it?
The plan
The
went wrong.
techniques must be known.
Are basic, yes, I agree.
And why were they absent here?
The plan has gone wrong. No one can, I can't even argue about that. Justice.
Counsel, your witness.
Thank you, Justice. Now, sir, I put it to you that unlawful conduct remains unlawful conduct, even viewed from hindsight.
I don't know that,
No, you can just say you agree or you do not agree.
but you are, it's, for me, you are saying an unlawful conduct is this or that. I say, I don't know.
Unlawful conduct cannot become unlawful just because you view it from hindsight. It's either unlawful or it's not unlawful. A truth
I hope
cannot become a lie if you view it from hindsight. Or lie cannot become the truth if you view it from hindsight. Do you agree?
You said, so now the truth,
It's
you've
a
thrown me off.
It's a simple issue, sir. We're saying that at that point in time, everything was fine.
Must
But-
work well.
When you, all these hindsight facts that I pointed out to you, you are saying that at that point in time, when you failed to stand up next to Mr. Mosinogi and confront it, it wasn't wrong. But now, from hindsight, you agree it was wrong.
No, no, I said I wish I would have
Yeah.
stood up. The wrong is something else.
Yeah.
I
The
wish
wrong
I
is
could have
something.
stood up.
The wrong is something else. We'll get to the specific wrongs, but the long and the short is, sir, you will agree with me that a wrong remains a wrong. And it doesn't depend whether or not you view it from hindsight.
I need your help, Justice.
Yeah.
I need your help.
Okay.
What is your response to that? I mean, we can make it much simpler.
Yeah, maybe you.
What counsel is saying to you is that if something was wrong, in law, unlawful, at the point of commission, it cannot change and become lawful only because you realized it later that it was unlawful.
That's a concept of law. Okay.
Of common sense also.
I understand. I understand. When you put it that way, I understand.
You understand that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreeing-
And I'm no doubt you do understand.
Yeah, I understand.
If you bumped somebody negligently, say in your car, and you think, I did not think that I was negligent then, but on hindsight, I was negligent. All what common sense and people do will say, he was negligent.
Did you want to do that deliberately?
That's a separate inquiry.
Maybe that's how I was
But in
thinking
law,
of
it doesn't
It
change.
doesn't matter. I don't know the law that much. Yeah.
If you sign something, you think you're regularizing it, but in fact, it is already unlawful anyway. It doesn't become lawful because, on hindsight, you thought it was lawful. Well,
Yes.
Whatever you think afterwards does not change the objective wrongfulness of the conduct.
Irrespective of the intention.
Otherwise, lawfulness would depend on the whims of people. After 3 months, somebody says, I didn't think it was wrong then, but I realize it's wrong now.
Okay.
Still remains wrong.
I hear you.
You agree with that?
You are the judge, you have explained
sure.
the
No,
law.
no, that's what
I
counsel is
understand
putting to
it.
you.
I understand it.
He's giving you an opportunity to respond because he's going to argue in your absence. That's what all this putting to you means, it's about.
All right.
He's going to say, Dr. Silibano, you shouldn't accept his version because in fact he had foresight, let alone hindsight.
No, I didn't have foresight.
Very well, counsel.
Okay.
Thank you, Justice.
No, I understand what
Dr. Celebano, just on the license issue. Now, you confirmed that you did not peruse any file or report on that NGOs. You simply reissued the license.
regularized the license.
We will get
it
to
was-
the regularized it, but you didn't have a file. You didn't say, bring me the file of the NGO. I want to see the compliance of the NGO. All right, I'm going to regularize it. So, but I'm satisfied that they comply with everything. So I'm now regularizing this license. The point is, you didn't go through a file. You didn't check that that NGO in fact complies. You
Counsel,
testified it, sir. I'm going to make it easy.
I said with the previous council, yes, but
All right,
you are
that's-
having your managers that sitting the same.
No, sir.
Okay.
I'm gonna. You are here on the spot. You signed.
Yes, I signed.
You signed that license.
Okay.
So I put it. You did not assess and determine whether or not that NGO, in fact, complied.
At that point in time, yes.
You did not. So you agree with me? That's a misrepresentation of facts. Because if you sign a license, you say, this NGO, in terms of the law, they are licensed to take on patients.
Yes. Dr.
Okay.
Manamel had already signed, and
No.
there's a history
You,
to
sir.
it. No.
You.
But you take it at in a point in time. If you can, and I'm not saying it's the right thing. I'm saying I regularized it
Yeah,
at
sure,
that
that's
time.
what you thought you were doing. You were regularizing.
Regularizing.
Okay.
Yes,
But
that's
I'm-
what I was doing.
Here's your answer, counsel.
That's
He
my-
says he thought he was regularizing it.
But I want to get to something specific, Justice, and that is, you agree with me that that's a misrepresentation of the facts. Because if you issue a license, you are saying that that institution complies with the Act and they can take patients. But you have not assessed that NGO, you personally. Irrespective of whether or not you regularized it, if you sign that license, you say that this NGO complies with all the requirements in terms of the law. But if you did not peruse the facts, you did not establish that, and you still sign that license, it's a misrepresentation of the facts.
Okay. I hear you, counsel, but I did also explain, Justice, that I sign licenses for private, for health establishments. The files that I get are the ones that says, HOD, we've gone to a Netcare hospital, we've checked everything, the theaters are fine, these are fine, these are fine. But I don't get a big file. The colleague says, we are satisfied. According to the Act, we have done everything. Please issue the license to the reissue. We normally reissue on yearly basis.
Yeah, you say you're entitled to rely on the reports of your colleagues.
I'm entitled to rely on the even oral report.
I hear
is
the
good
point.
enough,
Now,
yes.
counsel says, when you sign a license, in his view, you are required to do more than that. Okay, let's start. The first step, he says, when you sign a license, you are making a representation. You are telling the whole world that this person is entitled to do certain things.
Fair.
Right?
Justice, right.
You sign a license to drive, you're telling everybody she is entitled and has satisfied the requirements for a license. Let's take a driving license for a moment. But if you haven't checked, you haven't tested, you haven't done the eye tests, you haven't, and then you sign the license. Let's keep it to a driver's license. Council says you are misrepresenting to the world that she knows how to drive, she has a good eyesight, she is safe on the road. That amounts to a misrepresentation. Do you agree with that?
Okay.
As an
When you
initial
explain it, I hear it.
Yes. Doesn't relate to you, but that is every time an official signs a license,
Or
he's
in a-
saying to everybody that will deal with that person that she has satisfied the requirements of the law. You understand it from that point of view?
From that point of view.
So your conduct, he says, amounted to a representation, which is not true.
True. Irrespective of whether I was regularizing or not.
Yes.
Okay.
You follow that?
To make it much more simple, Dr. Esidimeni, you signed there under my hand on this day, the 1st of April. But when you signed it, it wasn't the 1st of April,
Yes,
2016. You agree?
I agree.
Now you agree that that's a misrepresentation of the facts because you did not sign the license on the 1st of April 2016.
I'm going to go back to the regularizing.
I'm gonna,
thing. Yeah.
sir, if you regularized it, you could have said, I have now reissued these licenses. It was issued on the 1st of April, but I'm issuing it now on the 17th of May or June or April or wherever, because I reissue it to regularize it, but I confirm that everything is in order and this NGO is indeed fit for purpose. You don't do that.
No, I didn't do that.
You misrepresented the facts because you didn't establish that they are indeed fit or proper to receive a license, and you sign it on the 1st of April 2016, or you
No, no.
dated it the 1st of April 2016, well knowing that it wasn't the 1st of April 2016.
And that's why we didn't remove the one that, or the original one that was signed.
And you agree it's a misrepresentation of the facts.
On the explanation of the justice, I understand.
Now, sir, the last issue I'm going to take you to is LR 115. It's,
Is it just council? Is it here already? Or
my
also here?
apologies, it's in that exhibit bundle, I think. It's my colleague also referred you to this document. It's that report on the deaths of the patients placed from Life Esidimeni to the hospitals and NGOs from May to August 2016.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you, council. I'm with you.
Now, I'm just going to be sweet and short on this, sir. This document, as we've indicated, was dated the 14th of September,
That's right.
2016. You indicated that there was 41 patients that's passed away
At that time.
at
yes.
that time. Now that the MEC said on the previous date was 36.
Yeah.
But the issue that I want to get to is on page 2 of the document, the reasons that you provided.
The one that says all there.
Yes,
Okay.
and the justice and my colleague canvassed with you and said, but how is it possible that you nowhere even made mention that it might be due to the negligence of the NGOs?
Yeah. No, I'm not quarreling with you. Yes.
And you should
You
have.
should.
You agreed. You should have. You
Should
know.
have put that as a possibility.
Yes, because, and the reason why you should have put that in, sir, is because you testified, and I went and I looked, you testified that at end of July, beginning of August, you received a phone call from the minister.
Around that time, yes.
Yes. And he said, Dr. Esidimeni, get to work, close down. No.
I don't quarrel with you on that one.
Yes.
Yes.
And your evidence is you were running around. You went to these NGOs. You saw what was happening there, sir. But then, in September, when you write a report, you don't make mention of any of that.
Should have been included. Actually, even probably much more. I agree with you. I agree with you.
So it's a misrepresentation of the facts again, yes, sir.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Now, sir, in terms of Section 70 of the Mental Health Care Act, any person who misrepresents a fact in any application, report, record, or certificate is guilty of an offense. So you will admit, sir, that you are guilty of an offense.
As you read it.
It's a fair reply. He doesn't have to say more than that.
I said,
Yes.
thank you,
The
Dr.
witness has made
Silvana.
a number of concessions
Yes.
there, but he doesn't have to say he's guilty of anything. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Silvana.
thank you.
All of the best, and I hope
you,
that
sir.
you also
Thank you,
find
sir.
closure and
I
peace.
hope I do also, sir.
Thank-
I hope I do.
Thank you, Justice.
Thank you very much.
you.
I appreciate your kindness.
Advocate Utamo.
Thank you, Justice. Dr. Silvano, good
Hi.
afternoon.
Hi, Advocate.
As it appears, I'm the last counsel to ask you questions,
Okay.
except for the re-examination. And I do not wish to repeat all the questions which have been posed to you. You have given the answers to the best of your ability.
Thank you, sir.
And from what appears from these proceedings, you may be aware that the families which are before you would like to know the truth of how the project was implemented
Yes.
in order to understand exactly how
What happened?
the death of their loved ones occurred.
Okay.
There's been a number of contradictions which were pointed out to you. And in order to avoid repetition of questions, I'll call upon you to, in shorter words and in simple terms, just explain who actually decided to terminate the contract between the department and Life Esidimeni.
You mean I should give a name and say it's so and so?
Indeed.
I've been battling with the name because, like I said, I found the contract, the decision that there might be, there should be a review of the contract of Life Esidimeni. I found it there.
If I can just interrupt you on that point. We all know now that the contract was terminated on the 29th of September 2015.
Yes, that's when I signed the contract.
Yes,
The termination letter.
the termination.
Yes.
So what
In a sense, it could be me, yes.
is what I need to establish from you, who was the ultimate decision maker that that letter that you have signed should have been drafted, signed, and sent to Life Esidimeni.
I hear you. We spoke about that again, Advocate, the events before that. But when I said finally, the decision to sign, to terminate was taken at the departmental level. as part of what I had explained, and I then was the one who signed it, the termination letter.
Is there any single person who can take the ultimate responsibility of the consequences attended to the termination of the contract?
I don't know if, no, it can't be a single person. There were deputy directors, assistant directors, managers, directors, chief directors. You saw the list of the teams there, including myself, MEC. I don't think there would be one only person to take.
I'm just going to take you to the questions which were posed to you with regard to, you were asked who was the decision maker in relation to the termination of the contract. And your response, if I recall, you said that it was the collective leadership of the province. Is that how I understood your answer?
Sorry. The department and the province, yeah.
And then in your definition of the collective, you made reference to the former MEC, Ms. Mahlangu,
That's right. Myself,
yourself as the HOD,
yes, and senior managers.
and the DDG led by Dr. Libete,
CFO,
and you also made reference to Dr. Manamela as the Director for Mental Health, Chief Executive Officers of various hospitals, HR, Infrastructure, and Finance.
and finance, yes.
And you mentioned that this decision was taken during a number of meetings which were held within the department.
Yes.
Are you,
And those that were held outside the department at budget councils.
Yes. And at what stage was the Premier involved during these meetings?
The budget councils belong to the Premier. I wouldn't give you the actual date, but there were two, we call them PBC. There were two of them where we presented to the Premier.
Yes. I just want us to deal with the reference to the collective as the decision maker. And I just want to find out within the department itself, was the Premier involved during the meetings which were held?
In the department? No.
Indeed.
No. The Premier doesn't sit in our meetings.
So we can accept that, like, during these meetings where the collective was having meetings, the Premier was not involved.
No, he doesn't sit in our meetings.
And he will not have been privy to the discussions.
To the granular discussions, no, he wouldn't.
Okay.
No, he wouldn't.
You have just been asked a question about the termination of the contract. And if I recall, your evidence was that, like, you were given files. Amongst them were documents relating to the letter which you had to sign. And that letter was the termination letter. Do you recall that?
Perhaps I was giving an office situation where there are files, the table and all that, and I've got to sign them. I was probably giving an office situation.
And you were asked if you have read that draft letter of termination.
The draft.
The letter which was drafted.
Oh yeah, yes, I signed it, I read it and then I signed it.
And you agreed with the contents of that letter.
That's correct, Councillor.
The contents which justified the termination of the contract.
That's correct.
if you can recall, from your evidence, you said that the facts which were placed before you justified the termination of the contract.
The facts that were discussed in the executive, let's agree to call it the collective, everybody.
Yes.
Yes, were convincing that this is what we must do.
They were convincing that you could terminate the contract.
Yes.
And there was nothing that could have prevented you to have terminated that contract on the 29th of September 2015.
At that time, no.
Yes, thank you. Let's now deal with your interaction with Mr. Mosenogi. When you had a discussion about the difficulties or the risks which could have arisen by the implementation of the project. Do you recall that?
The misgivings, yes, I remember the letter, yeah.
And you have been quizzed on the appointment of the project team, that in fact you have approved the project team.
Yes, I nominated the team. If you see that, it's a nominees.
Yes. So like you are the one who has appointed Mr. Mosenogi to lead the team as the project leader.
To nominate, yes, I nominated him. You see, there's a, okay, yes.
And in your discussions with Mr. Mosenogi, you have had discussions with him that you had to communicate with the former MEC about the misgivings relating to the implementation of the plan.
No, we were sitting there and looking at everything and what should we do, how can we do it, who will do it, and he said, I will do it. And that's why the letter starts by saying, I apologize, MEC, for writing to you directly.
And the letter that you speak about is LR2. Like if you can try and locate the file.
Yeah. So, is this reporting to the circumstances?
Yes, like if you can go to page 27, it should be at the bottom right of the document.
29. Oh, that's the letter that, the problem with that letter, I recall it. It's, the print is so fine.
Yes.
Actually, it's so inky that it's not legible.
But do you
that's
have
why-
do you have any recollection of the concerns which were penned down in that letter?
I mean, it would have been, that question out, it would be easy if I could, you recall, sorry, through you. You'd recall that letter, I had to see it through a laptop.
Yes.
Because I couldn't. So if I were to say I recall,
Yeah, it can be made available again, and as and when you need it, anytime.
okay, there is it. Over to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Where do we start?
Well, if for a moment you can just put aside the laptop and turn to the letter had an attachment of the issues which were raised. That should be on the LS, just say.
Is that the one on 12 February 2016? Is that the one? Where it
Yes,
starts with MEC, Ms. Q Matlangu.
that's correct.
We have attended.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I've got it here.
Are you able to read? Yes.
Yeah, I can see it.
Do you recall those concerns which were raised?
This discussion, yes. Not word for word, of course. but
Yes.
Yeah.
And your evidence was that because Mr. Mosenogi was the project leader, he should have been the one to convey those concerns to the MEC.
No, no, no. I said, we then discussed and said who would be best placed. Ordinarily, I would have been the one to do it. But then we agreed that now that you are the project leader, you can still do it. And that's how we agreed on it.
Yes. And you concurred with Mr. Mosenogi's concerns
Yes.
which were raised.
Yes.
Yes.
I was part and parcel of this, yes.
Do you recall the date when were those concerns raised?
I mean, the date on the letter?
Yes. When the concerns were raised with the MEC, former MEC?
No, I wouldn't recall the actual date of the meeting. No. I don't remember the actual date.
But it would have been around February of 2015.
It should, yeah. I can tentatively want
You
to
mean
agree.
concerns raised as in the letter sent or
The email which was
in a
sent.
meeting?
The email was sent on the 12th of February,
February? Yes.
2015.
So I wouldn't know, I don't have the date of
Yes.
February
It
2015.
is in front of you. If you scrolled up or down,
The-
you'll see. Yeah,
The battery is running low now. It's
Okay.
I see.
Well, like even on the ELA document, like if you can look at the document itself.
The problem in the document is that you can't even see.
No. I'm referring, like I just want to take you to the date, not the contents of the email. You should be able to see that. Page 27, at the top of the document, in bold.
I was trying to say, I don't even have page 27. We used the laptop for that.
Like
And now
I
it
think.
says it's closing.
Do you have this one?
Okay, it has recovered, it's less than 10%. Maybe we can quickly, yeah, sorry, not, okay. No, it's at 9, going down.
Yes, like do you see where it's written 90.2 at the top of the document?
I'm lost with this, maybe
Obakeng,
Obakeng
would
can come
you-
and help. I see annexure 5,
Help, Doctor.
annexure
Yes,
5.
yes. Below that,
And then it says Mosenogi Levi,
yes. Then
from Mosenogi.
can you see the date?
The date is 12 Feb
Yes,
at 4:06 p.m.
yes.
Yes, I can see that.
But what we want to establish, Council, it's late in the day, these facts are common cause. There's a letter which was sent to the MEC, and this witness claims to be the co-author. In other words, supported him in authoring the letter. So the document has been qualified already.
Justice, like there are a number of aspects which I need to converse with the witness insofar as his position is concerned.
Please go ahead, yes.
if-
But I'm
if-
saying that we needn't qualify the document. We've done that already. We know the dates, we know all that. So you can ask the questions, yes. Please
Yes.
proceed
Okay.
to the substance. In other words, let's not spend time on identifying it, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Unless if justice is pressed for time, maybe like we might have to proceed with the witness. Otherwise, like I am happy to proceed with the questioning.
No, please proceed the question. No, I was making a very narrow point, Council. It's very narrow, is that you've taken time to help identifying the document, and I'm saying we've done that already, at least by 3 advocates. So I ask you just to proceed with the questions on the document.
Thank you, Justice.
Very well.
Dr. Esidimeni,
Council?
I have referred you to the email that the contents of which you have agreed with Mr. Mosenogi. The email in which concerns were raised about the misgivings that you had about the implementation of the project. And when a question was asked whether did you write to the MEC yourself? I recall you saying that like, you did not communicate with the MEC directly insofar as those issues were concerned.
I don't understand.
You were asked a question as to whether did you, in your capacity as the HOD, raise with the MEC the concerns which you had about the project?
In relation to this letter?
Yes.
Yes. Did I raise it with the MEC?
Yes.
No, it was raised in a meeting. That's the meeting you are asking.
Okay.
I thought. It was raised in a meeting. We agreed with Mr. Mosenukhu that he'll raise it, and he raised it.
And the meeting was subsequent to
The
email, the
That's
letter
right.
of the 12th of February.
That's right. It was
Very well.
subsequent to that.
And you have, do you recall when was that meeting?
I can't recall the date. It's a long time ago. Yeah, the actual date now. I
Yes.
don't know the-
And then you said that when Mr. Mosenokhi raised the issue, he was stopped from continuing with those issues when he was asked whether was he working for Life Esidimeni or the department.
Yes, I've said that yesterday. Yes, I've said that.
And you said that the matter was never discussed any further.
That's correct.
And this is a matter which fell within your department as the head.
The matter was settled when the MEC said, do you work for Life Esidimeni or what, Mr. Mosenukhu? And we all kept quiet. As you should accept that it was a difficult way of answering a question.
What did that mean? What did you understand had to mean?
Are you canvassing for Life Esidimeni or what?
Yeah.
Something like that.
For which side are you betting? Are you betting
Which
for them?
side, which team are you going with here?
Yeah. And you understood that to mean stop supporting Life Esidimeni?
No.
No.
You'd have understood that to say we may not get any further now. Ordinarily, if they would say, okay, what are the concerns? Can we talk? What are the issues? Then you got an atmosphere where you then exchange. No, these are our views. We are thinking this way. We are thinking that way.
So the
That was
attempt to
not-
raise these things with the
was
MECs
quashed
were stopped dead in their tracks, right there.
right there.
So basically, like you were prevented from raising your concerns about the inappropriate time to implement the project.
Council, please forgive me. I'm now very careful with language. When you say prevent, I don't want to create an impression that I wanted to do it, then the MEC stopped me. No, she didn't prevent me. We just didn't raise it.
Well, like you say in your letter, I mean, in the email which you prepared with Mr. Mosenokhi, you raised issues
Of course,
which related to the
the project.
project. And your concern was that it could not have been executed at that time, not so?
Yes, there were misgivings, yes.
And following that, there was a meeting which you had, and you wanted to repeat the very same concerns that we cannot proceed with this project. Not so?
Correct.
And that was thwarted when Mr. Mosenokhi was asked the question.
It was what?
That was stopped
Okay.
when Mr. Mosenokhi was asked the question.
Yeah, Mr. Mosenukhu wanted to raise the issue that we wanted to raise this and said, do you work for Life Esidimeni? I don't even recall whether he answered or not. We all just left it at
You
that.
all felt this is the end of the road.
That's correct, Justice.
Is it then not that you have been prevented from raising those issues?
Well, she'll say, I never said don't talk.
The effect, I mean, you said the matter was never discussed any further by virtue of the question which has been posed. The effect of that, is it not that you were prevented from discussing it further?
Council, if you want to see it as a prevention, it's fair, but I'm simply saying that when that question When Mr. Msunuku stood up and said this, and that answer came to that, we went to the next item. There was no other discussion.
Thank you. Let's then go back to your appointment.
That's right.
You testified that you have been appointed by the Premier.
Ordinarily, yes.
Yes, although...
HODs,
yes.
HODs appointed by
Yes.
the Premier.
Although, like, your political head will be the MEC for Health.
Supervisor, yes, is the MEC.
Okay. You were asked a question about I'm still going to deal with this aspect of termination of the contract. You were asked a question in relation to the termination of the agreement as to whether did you report to anybody for the decision. Do you recall that question being posed to you?
I remember that.
And you said you would have probably informed the MEC. Do you recall that?
Yes, we haggled around that. I said I would probably would have. There was a bit of haggling, yes.
And you were asked whether were you obliged to tell the MEC?
When you work as a team, you share information. If you know you can't take it, justice, you are signing a letter that has implications in terms of a contract. You would want to assure your political head that this is what I've done. It's not asking for permission. It's just that you will say to the political head, this is what I've done.
Well,
it's not.
Yeah. Well, like the question is whether were you obliged to have informed the MEC of the decision?
Work ethics, you know, the simple answer would be no, I was not obliged. But work ethics suggests that you need to do these things so that you build a work relationship. So the obligation, no. Work ethic in terms of proper work environment, yes, you've got to do that.
Insofar as the termination of the contract was concerned, you were asked a question whether did you require her approval? Do you recall that?
No, it's an yes, I remember that. I remember that.
What was your answer?
I said it's an administrative matter, I can sign it.
So you did not require her approval?
No, it's an administrative matter.
Well, like if you can just indicate
Yes.
by a yes or no.
No,
like,
I didn't require approval.
You didn't require her approval. So that decision to terminate lied with you, not the MEC.
The decision to sign the termination letter was with me, yes.
No, like, let's not try to complicate the ways. What I'm saying is the decision to terminate the contract.
No, but you see, that's, again, you are saying I'm complicating, but you say the decision to terminate the contract, and I'm saying the collective said we terminate the contract. My decision is, my action is to sign off.
Can I just rephrase that?
Maybe, yes.
For the termination of the contract, you did not require the approval of the MEC.
That's correct.
And for that matter, you did not require the approval of the Premier's Budget Council.
No, departmental matters end up in departments.
Yes.
No.
Okay. And you were asked a question whether would the implementation of the plan have proceeded without you saying yes. I recall you having given the response that you can't proceed until the HOD says yes.
In the normal functioning of things, if there is no signature that says proceed. You can't until you have that signature. It's correct.
Okay.
If you don't mind, excuse me, can I just pick up water? Give me a
Yes,
second.
yes.
Somebody can help you. You don't have to, Doc. Let them bring you water. Oh, you prefer to be up than down. Okay.
Been sitting for. Thank you, Justice.
That's fine.
Let me just go on.
Sorry for the disruption,
Yes.
Council, sorry.
Yes. So now we know that you did not require the approval of the MEC nor the Premier's Budget Council.
You don't get approvals in PBC.
Yes, yes. You then terminated the contract on the 29th of September
By sense of
Yes.
signing the letter,
Yes. And when you did this, you were already aware of the risks which were identified by yourself together with Mr. Musenohi? Not so.
No. What we're talking about with Mr. Musunuki happened around 2016.
Yes.
And the contract, if you check, was
Yes.
terminated in 2015. I think my head is spinning, but it should be the 30th of September,
Okay.
2015.
Yes.
So
Let's deal with the letter which was sent to you by SASOP. Do you remember that? Do you remember the letter?
yes, previous council showed me the letter.
And references were made to the warnings which were placed before you prior to the termination. Do you recall that?
I did concede to council that there were warnings, and I've said it, there were a lot of warning signs. Yes.
So there were a lot of warning signs prior to the termination of the agreement.
No. Some of, there's a letter that, am I allowed to do that?
To do what?
That I recall that council showed me a letter that I said I don't have a recollection of that
Yes,
letter.
if you describe the letter, we can get it for you.
And that's the one that I said I don't recall. And then you showed me the letters, the SASOP letter. My recollection would say that
Can you get to LR2?
Yes, council should help you and get you there. It's an attachment to LR2. To the ombuds
LR2.
report.
oh, okay,
Page 47.
47. 47, that's right?
Do you recall the letter?
Yes. I know the letter.
Can you just read for the record what is the date of that letter?
Where's the date here? It's signed 17/06/2015. It has other dates. I can't see the date on.
And that is prior to the termination of the agreement, not so?
That's right. Okay, that's right. Yes, I can see that.
So if you were made aware, or like there were flashing lights, there were warnings given to you, you have considered that there were many warnings that you should have taken into account. If you did not require the approval of the former MEC, why did you proceed in spite of these warnings?
Well, I said that I hear you, that there was no, like you are putting it, but I we still, the collective, myself, leading the managers, we still went on. And I considered, I said, we should have picked up the warning signs. I've considered to that we should have picked up. We didn't. We now know we should have picked up the warning signs.
I mean, like, you said that you were appointed by the Premier, and for your work, you did not require the approval of the former MEC, not so?
That's correct. No. We are generalizing. For my work, there would be instances where I would need the MEC.
In relation to this project, in relation to the implementation of this project, which fell within your department, in law, you did not require her approval, not so?
That's correct.
So, knowing your powers as the head of department, you should have not proceeded to terminate the contract. What's your response to that?
At that time, the collective, including the MEC, we agreed that we should proceed with the project. Now, we now know that it was a bad decision.
No, I'm referring to you as the head of department, that on your own, in that capacity, put aside other members of the collective, on your own, in law, you should have stopped the project from being implemented in light of the warnings which were given to you.
Yeah, the work situation doesn't work the way you are describing it. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't happen that I've signed something, then I just decide. I said, colleagues, including MEC, I'm cancelling this thing. I have to discuss with the managers, and they're more, the finance people know better than me in terms of the nitty-gritties of that. So I hear what you're saying, but I'm saying take a real work situation. It doesn't work like that.
Yes, but like the responsibility lied with you in the department, not so?
Yes, I'm the accounting officer.
So were you not supposed to be the decision maker in this regard?
Accounting officers make decisions when they're helped by managers. Anyone who does it alone, I don't know how it works.
Yes, I have referred you to issues which were raised by your own managers about the implementation of the project. You were being assisted. They told you that you can't proceed with this project. They helped you.
No. You are. The letter that we said with Mr. Musenuchi, it was not what you are saying, assisting me. We agreed with Mr. Musenuchi that we seem to be going on the right, we are not going on the right direction. And we had a discussion and said, you raised the matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like, even if we were to accept your explanation, are you saying that the letter from SASOP was of no moment because it didn't come from the department?
Judge Museneke said the term, was it of no moment? I said, I wouldn't agree with, there's somewhere, Justice, when you said, was it of no moment? And I said, Justice, please, that word for me, it throws me off because it's like you see something, you just dismiss it and you don't care about it. No, it's not something like that.
Did you take into account their concerns when you terminated the contract?
We knew the account, we were sitting with them, discussing with them, but...
No. I'm asking
No.
a different question. I'm asking, did you take into consideration the concerns which were raised by SASOP in your decision making?
I hear what, we missed the signs, we didn't do that. We didn't do that.
So you should have done that.
On hindsight, now you know that what happened and you now go back to the same letter, you go back to everything, you say, that's why I considered yesterday, Council, that if we had just picked up these signs, things would have turned out differently.
Was it an oversight on your part?
In the sense,
To have not taken into consideration
the department made a mistake.
those concerns?
The department made a mistake by not.
No. I'm making reference to your role as the head of that department who terminated the contract. I'm asking you whether was it an oversight on your part?
No, it was not an oversight because I wouldn't have thought about the consequences that time.
Where like the issues were raised with you.
But when you say it's oversight, is that you know the reasons, you agree with this, and you see this, but
You have probed the point. You put the witness an oversight. He says it is not.
Okay.
You can put it again. He's going to say it's an oversight. So we have to probe other matters. There might be ancillary to that.
Yes.
But you have an answer. The answer is it's not an oversight. Whether it's a good answer or not is another matter.
Yes. Can you please go to, can you try and get file 1, page, I mean, if you're like, I'm going to refer you to file 1, page 181.
can I put this one aside, Councillor?
Yes.
That,
File 1, page,
181.
yeah, you can, sorry, I'm sure you should take it. 181. I'm at 181.
Yes. There is a sentence which was, in respect of which you were referred,
Okay.
at the top of the document.
Is it, should I top as 181 or at 180?
181.
181. Okay.
Where it is recorded that the HOD discussed the need to desegregate patients from the life facilities and to assess the social impact on patients and employees of Life Esidimeni as instructed by the Premier. There's been quite a few questions which were posed to you in that regard. And then whilst you are on that page, can you please try get the document LR 114?
Where do I go now?
of course, it will help the witness if we
114.
either preface and tell the witness what we're going to ask, or ask a question from, if it's a many collection of passages, of course, it might prejudice the witness. Do you want the witness to compare the two passages?
Indeed.
Okay, very well.
Okay.
Can you have a look at paragraph 14?
In 114.
Yes.
Okay.
From paragraph 14, which is the affidavit that like you have already testified on, I just want to get some clarity on some issues here. In the affidavit, you stated that during the financial years 2014 to 15 and 2015 to 16, particular emphasis was placed on cost containment and revenue enhancement, in brackets, which was included as part of the annual performance plans for the department, without sacrificing the quality of service provision.
That's right.
This was discussed at the Premier's Budget Council, and a presentation was given by the member of the Executive Committee for Health in Gauteng, Ms. Gedani Dorothy Mahlangu. Do you see that?
I can see that, Council.
Do you recall what presentation?
It was a PBC presentation. With you, in the Premier's Budget Council, you don't present one thing. You present the whole budget of the department. HR, what are you going to do in ensuring that you manage your costs in HR? This is what we're going to do, Premier. Okay, what are you going to do in infrastructure? Are you foreseeing under expenditure?
But for now, you're confirming the
yes.
contents of that paragraph.
Yes.
That's the question.
Yes.
Proceed, Councillor.
Was the issue relating to the marathon project ever discussed, or was it presented during this council meeting?
No, by that time, we were not discussing the marathon project. It had not actually been started by that time. This is your 14-15. The discussion to the Premier would be, what are you going to do on cost cutting and revenue enhancement? Premier, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this, do away with this, do away with this, do away with this. That's what
Yes.
it means. We're going to collect money from this. I did collect money from those who are owing us this way, that way.
Yes, like I just need to know whether during that presentation, which is referred to in this paragraph, was the issue relating to the marathon project dealt with? I mean, you have mentioned that the Premier was the person who was chairing this Premier Budget Council meetings, not so?
The simple answer is no. We had not, there was no, as yet, there was no marathon project. There was none.
So, despite the Premier having been chairing these meetings, he would not have known of the marathon project at that time?
The marathon project was, it's an implementation project. Premiers wouldn't know about an implementation project.
So the Premier would not have known?
You wouldn't have known.
Okay, thank you. If you read from the same paragraph, paragraph 14, paragraph 14 of your affidavit, the last part of the first sentence, it records that when this cost containment and revenue enhancement, in fact, like it should not sacrifice the quality of service provision. Do you see that?
Yes, I see that.
When the project was underway, was there any intention to cut on medication which should have been made available to the mental health care users?
No, there was no intention. You can't cut on medicine. You can't.
So was it part of the strategy to scale down on the quality of care which was provided to those mental health care users who were housed by Life Esidimeni?
No. How do you plan to scale down patient care? You can't scale down patient care.
But like we now know the consequences of the project, not so?
Agreed.
Did anyone in the department foresee the possibility of death of those mental health care users?
Council, I wish that could have been what we foresaw. No one did. And in my heart, I wish somebody could have foreseen that. Then we stop immediately. No one did. No one.
What does paragraph 19 of the same affidavit mean?
Can I quietly read it then? You asking
Yes,
me?
yes, please read it.
Okay, I think it means that as part of the project now, the deinstitutionalization project, as we agreed now with the MEC as the leader now, the political leader of the project, and the premier budget. Okay, I know that the word approval again would have been with the knowledge by the Premier's Budget Council, as well as the annual performance plan. Those were the things that were there. I then issued a notice.
I'm just startled by the
the word-
number of versions that you
No, the word
put
approval.
before us. Huh?
No, Justice, I think I spoke to the advocate. The word approval would have the appropriate word would have been with the knowledge.
On instruction, is that correct?
It's correct. Yes, we're now working with the
And
ministry.
there is a marathon project, right?
This is the deinstitutionalization project. Then inside there was this marathon.
Yes.
act.
But
Yes,
is it on the instruction of the MEC?
that's right.
That's
Yes,
correct.
that's right. That's right.
An approval of Premier Budget Council
I would have said with the knowledge of its
with the
English.
knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the version you've just given to in response to Advocate Hutamo is not the same as that. It's very late in the day, but it's yet another version. But you continue, Councillor.
Thank you. Can you just try and
Well, let's do this way, a bit of housekeeping. It is 5:30, just past 5:30. We have to decide on what we're going to do. I'd hoped to help this witness away today, that's why we're still seated. But it's a function of how much more you still have. If you still have a long way of cross-examination, then we know what to do. We'll all go and rest.
I'll come to.
And I'm sure the witness is tired himself.
Yeah, but I'll have to come tomorrow.
Yes, if it's going to be short, we help the witness away. If it's going to be long, we adjourn till tomorrow. But it's an election that should come really from council.
yes. Justice, there are still some aspects which we'll really need to deal with, and then I'll propose that we take a break until we meet 9:30 tomorrow.
Of course. You heard that, Dr.
I've heard that.
We're almost at the end. That's a good thing.
Okay, thank you, Justice.
After this cross-examination by the state, you'll be left with re-examination by Advocate Hutamo, which usually is a procedure to revisit matters that were raised, not new ones.
So that's what he's doing now.
No, re-examination of
Okay.
the Advocate Hutamo,
Oh,
the one we
okay.
started with. That will be the closing thing, and you're going to
It's Advocate Ngujani, Justice.
Chani, yes.
Advocate Guchana. So
So yes, I
I
was surprised.
apologize. Advocate Guchana would then re-examine
Okay,
the evidence leader, and then you will say what you want to say,
thank you, Justice.
and we'll be done.
Thank you, Justice.
So I hope that we would have a different voice from yours tomorrow,
Thank you, Justice.
but you will still be here as
I'll be
things
here,
are.
Justice. I'll be here.
So you are excused from there,
Thank you, Justice.
and you should be back here at 9:30 tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay.
Shall we do some housekeeping? Or you'd rather want to do it in my chambers? If it's short, we can do it here. And if it is not controversial, we can do it here.
Justice?
Yes.
My apologies. Justice, unfortunately, due to today's arrangements and time shifts, there's a small issue that needs to be sorted out tomorrow. or myself, and there's a possibility that we might be some 15 minutes late. Now, I don't want to waste your time,
That's fine.
but unfortunately it's something I need to attend to. And,
15 will kill nobody.
then it's in order. Thank you very much.
Yes. 1 hour 15 will kill all of us. But with 15 we can live. Very well. Any other housekeeping matter? This witness will be done surely by tea or something. Once, and will we have other witnesses to go on?
Justice, from
And will we have a program that includes the January activity?
Justice, from our side, we do have a witness that would be able to testify tomorrow, and which we've arranged to be here in the morning. We circulated between the parties a new schedule, but I think it's necessary that we discuss that in chambers. Perhaps if we could do that tomorrow or this afternoon.
Very well. Because availability in January is an issue, as I've said many, many times for me. So let's talk about that. I'm quite happy that we do it now, but that's because you'll be coming a little rushed tomorrow. So we perhaps going to do it now in my chambers, and then we all can go. Is that fine? It's just a suggestion. If you feel we do it tomorrow, we do it tomorrow.
Well, Justice, I want to suggest that if you can do it tomorrow morning at 9 or soon thereafter.
Well, Advocate Grunewald won't be here, so you're choosing a time when he won't be here. He can't be at 9:30, so it's a perfect way to exclude him, I think.
Justice, we could do it in the lunch adjournment tomorrow as well.
That is fine.
Take the last 15 minutes of the lunch adjournment to meet. And maybe that'll give us some time to discuss amongst ourselves also before we meet with you.
The balance of the program,
That's so, yes.
yes. Okay. I think it is in the public and also perhaps national interest to bring the matter to some point where we can see the finishing line. We have to talk about that tomorrow. You want to be here tomorrow, Dr. Silvano,
I'll be here, Justice.
at 9:30.
I'll be here, Justice.
And by the end of this, if you're not a lawyer, I would be surprised. But very well, we are adjourned till tomorrow at 9:30.